Welcome back to Face the Nation. I'm John Dickerson. Joining us now from Chicago is Democratic strategist and CNN senior political commentator David Axelrod. David, you've been inside these campaigns and you know what it's like. Take us inside what happens when you're in a campaign and the numbers aren't looking good, which is the situation Hillary Clinton faces.
Yeah, this isn't theory. I remember 8 years ago, almost to the day, when everybody was reading last rites over the Obama campaign. We had blown our opportunity. We were way behind in national polls. You know, what happens is that every donor in America becomes an amateur political consultant and very generous with their advice. I remember during that period one of the donors in Chicago summoning Obama to a meeting, telling him that he must fire his leadership and replace it with people who were more familiar with Washington politics. And so, you know, it's a very uncomfortable place to be, but you have to keep your perspective in the midst of the storm and take the long view, make the adjustments you need to make, and not panic.
And not run off the rails. So what does Hillary Clinton have to do you think, at this moment?
Well, first of all, I think we ought to apply some perspective to this. She's still in a very strong position. If you know, Iowa and New Hampshire are challenging for her, but Iowa involves organization. If we hadn't started organizing Iowa in March of 2007 with all the momentum we had, I'm not sure we would have won the Iowa caucuses. She learned that lesson, and my understanding is they're doing a better job of organizing Iowa on the ground, and that's going to be meaningful in the winter. As you mentioned, as we've discussed, John, after Iowa and New Hampshire come a series of states with large minority populations where she has a decided advantage. So, you know, the situation isn't all that bleak for her, as these polls would suggest, but they're certainly an alarm, and they should be taken seriously. I think she needs to untether herself from the talking points, from the teleprompters, from the polling, get herself out of this straitjacket of inevitability, and really speak from the heart about why she wants to be president and what this campaign is all about. Authenticity is the coin of the realm in presidential politics, and she needs to show hers.
Explain authenticity a little bit, about because we hear that word all the time. Talk about the transaction that takes place with a voter and a candidate who they think is, quote unquote, authentic.
Well, I think that people want to know that the person they're voting for is comfortable in their own skin and is presenting themselves as they are, and is not filtering everything through a 7-second political kind of delay so that it comes out in absolutely calibrated language, which is the feeling you get from Mrs. Clinton from time to time. They want to know that you are who you seem to be. And I would argue that that authenticity is the leading indicator in presidential races. If you look at the last many presidential races, the more authentic candidate tends to win that election, at least in the general election. So it's very, very important.
When you hear about authenticity on the Democratic side, a lot of people mention Joe Biden. Do you think he's going to run?
You know, I think he is authentic. He's utterly authentic. He says what he means and he says what he feels. And I think we ought to listen to what he's been saying lately. I don't think he's playing a game when he says that he doesn't know if he has the emotional reserves to run a presidential race. And remember, he knows uniquely what it takes to run a presidential race. So I think that this is going to be a very hard thing for him to overcome. And that's what he's been telling us. So I take him at his word, and I think ultimately that may be the deciding factor and that he won't run.
Another candidate who gets the authenticity label is Bernie Sanders. He's also doing very well in the polls. Give us your sense of his future and what the obstacles and challenges are for him.
I think he's done a great job. I have to give him a great deal of credit. He's gone farther than anybody anticipated, and it is partly because he comes across as a guy who believes exactly what he's saying and is very passionate about it. But the tests get different, John, and they get harder as the race goes on. And one of those is, do you have the dimensionality to be president? And it's not just about making a speech, it's about how you relate to people. That's going to be a challenge for him. But the other challenge is the one I mentioned earlier. He doesn't really have a relationship with minority communities because of the state from which he comes. And you can see that in polling in states like South Carolina, Nevada, and elsewhere. He's going to need to develop that to become a competitive candidate down the line.
All right. David Axelrod, thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be with you.